Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today we have with us Scott, and Scott is a huge Marvel fan and comic book fan in general. Scott, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Scott. I've been into Marvel since I possibly could read.
Wow.
Yeah, I've always been to comic books. I do favor Marvel over the others, although I do love all comics. I think they all have wonderful stories, and and when they started becoming on the screen, I know that in the 70s there were some TV shows. They were not done so
Mhm.
well, but there were some really good ones here. Like what really got me into it was uh, Bill Bixby's and Lou Ferrigno's Incredible Hulk that was on TV in the 70s
Okay.
and 80s. And so I would sit in front and watch every single day. I was like, I would not miss it. Save,
Oh,
you couldn't peel me away. So I've
right.
collected comics, I've collected little figurines and different things here, but I just enjoy everything about comics. I think it opens up a world of imagination and
Exactly.
and helps us to think about things that we've never really thought about, and to go to those places there. Science fiction and comics have led the way to invention and out of the box thinking. So I'm a real
Exactly.
proponent of those things.
Wonderful. And from your very young age, you have been reading the comics and everything. So when you see them on screen, have you been more or less happy with the versions that you've seen, or you've been like, oh no, it doesn't match my imagination?
I would say probably 85% love it. There have
Oh
been one
wow.
or two that I've kind of just been like, really, you know, um, to go to another genre is like I was really upset with Blue Beetle. Love Blue Beetle. I
Hmm.
thought that it was a little stereotypical, of things
Okay. Yeah.
that people kind of played on a little bit more of the ethnicity, and rather just the people and diving a little bit deeper into the characters themselves. Blue
Hmm.
Beetle is much more than being Hispanic, as many other things. Like one of the things I really loved was Miss Marvel, and they explored her culture, as
Yeah.
well as what it means to be a superhero. And so I like
Right.
when they go and dive deep into that and really because I always want to know how things go. Why?
Hmm.
What brought them to this moment? What was the situations? What were the decisions that they made that would allow us to become either a hero, a villain, an anti-hero, or something along
Hmm.
those lines there. And it really shapes the story there. And so learning about
Exactly.
them on a personal level, contributes to the overall story. And that's what I really love about Marvel is that they make a lot of real world comparisons to things here. You can really feel the characters. You can really understand what they go through. You can feel their pain. You can feel their
Yeah.
happiness. The comedy involved. It really just gets you sucked into the story, and that's what I love. I
Exactly.
love. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I remember us talking about Deadpool and Wolverine even before it was going to come out.
Mhm.
We were talking about being excited to watch it. Like, so let me give a little bit of background about my connection with the comics and with Marvel. I'm from India, and
Mhm.
I wasn't really connected to the comic book culture back in India.
Wait.
I'm sure, yeah.
You're from India? I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Yes, and I'm back in India. I remember
Yes.
just a month back I was sitting there and you came to meet me before I left. But yeah, I'm
I'm
back in
coming over there
India.
someday. I'm gonna come over there someday, and we're gonna hang
Please,
out and we're gonna do this. Yes,
yeah, I will introduce you to our culture. But
please do.
with regards to comic book culture, I wasn't really familiar with that much. Although there are people who are familiar with the culture who have actually been able to go through these comic books at their young age, but I didn't. So I started
Mhm.
following it at a much older age. In fact, I think I started following after Marvel Studios, started with Iron Man, and then they had the series of movies, Marvel movies, you know. That's when I started
Hmm.
connecting with it, and then I would watch some videos. You know, I have some channels like Emergency Awesome that I would watch, and they would give me a little bit of
Hmm.
background about everything, right? So that's where I come
Yeah.
from. So for me, Deadpool and Wolverine was exciting because I followed all of the Wolverine movies from X-Men, you know, the movies that have come out when he did the X-Men series. And I've
Hmm.
seen both the Deadpool movies, and they were coming into Marvel. So I was super excited about that. And so that was my excitement, you know. It wasn't related to something in my young age or anything. So what was your reaction when you heard Deadpool and Wolverine are going to come together in a movie and into Marvel,
Well,
right?
I, so after I screamed at the top of my lungs like a little
Okay.
girl, and I was like, uh, I wanted to. I was ready. I was ready for it. I have enjoyed Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in
Yes.
first one and the second one there. I think that the comedy is both where it needs to be there. He has researched this character through and through, and knowing that and Hugh Jackman, which was like one of my favorites ever since I watched the first X-Men. And
Yeah.
so, because when I like back in the day when I heard that they were making an X-Men movie, and we would think about who we were going, who would we cast as each character here, and so
Yeah.
never heard of Hugh Jackman. They did an excellent job there. Always knew that Patrick Stewart, because I was a Star Trek fan, would be the perfect Professor Xavier. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yes. And so forth, and so this is to see something that you have imagined come to fruition on the screen here is just amazing. So I do think, and this is a discredit to the film industry here, is that the previews have gotten much more detailed that I think
Hmm.
is counterproductive to, in my opinion, is counterproductive to the actually enjoying the movie there. Because if you look too
Okay.
much, it's like, okay, I saw that part. Oh, this part's coming. Oh, this is, and I don't want
Yeah.
to be, so I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to have anything. I want to go into this with new, eyes, and everything. So I made sure that I didn't watch any of the previews. I
Oh,
didn't talk to
nice.
any of the people. I didn't watch any of the clips on social media. So even when I was watching other movies, the preview would come on, I'd close my eyes and I'd be like, oh la 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 la. And my wife and I both did that. I
Oh,
didn't want to
really?
have any.
Wow.
Yes, I made sure that when I went to see this movie, I knew nothing.
Wow.
Also, because I knew that it was going to be so long, I made sure I didn't have anything to drink that would cause me to jump up and go use the restroom because I was like not missing anything.
Nice.
So,
That's great. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, over the moon about this. I've been waiting for this for so long. I've read comics, and seen their interactions here. I thought that the story was really well done. I liked that they
Hmm.
bundled in other things, that they kind of opened it up. And sorry, we're gonna go ahead and say spoiler alert if you haven't seen this here,
Yes.
but we're opening up to other stories here. Where they touched on, it's like, well, why did I make Thor cry? Those types of things
Yeah.
there. It's just like, okay, so that means that there's something else coming. There's other,
Coming. Yeah.
you know, yeah. And the fact that other people in the Marvel universe have been so positively responsive to this here that they're
Hmm.
like, hey, I want to be a part of this here, even if it's just a
Yes.
cameo. It just makes it fun because Deadpool is fun. Deadpool is both tragic and fun at the same time,
Mm.
and and for me, it's the ability to say, look at my life and all the pitfalls, all the different things in my life, and be able to turn around and laugh at it. I mean,
Exactly.
life is hard. We all know life is hard, but
Right.
you could choose to either wallow in self-pity, or you could pick yourself up and kind of shrug your shoulders and say, wow, yeah, yeah, it really punch me in the crotch, and but I'm still here. I learned from it, and someday I'm going to laugh about it, and that's what Deadpool does. Deadpool says,
Exactly.
"Hey, I've been punched in the crotch so many times with life and different things here, but I'm still going to do the right thing. I'm still going to do, and I'm still going to laugh about it, and you brush
Exactly.
yourself off and continue on."
Absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And wonderful teachings. And I like the way you looked at his character and your analysis about, how it helps us to overcome our difficult situations, right? So
Mhm.
wonderful analogy here. So coming into the movie, now that you went with that fresh mind, you didn't watch anything. What was your reaction to that first opening credit scene where you see Deadpool dancing to the
I
song?
literally laughed out loud, loud in the theater. My wife looked
Okay.
at me like I had just lost, like I had gone crazy, and she just like, and I'm just like howling so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like so great. I mean, total Deadpool style, total everything. I mean,
Absolutely.
it was beautifully crafted. I mean, it was. Listen, I have goosebumps right now, even when I'm thinking about it.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
That's how positive I responded to it. I was just like giddy, like a schoolgirl.
Wow, nice, great, great. And the way they start the movie also, right? I mean, they connected with the end of the Logan movie and
Mhm.
him trying to get the Logan character into their world, right? Like
Yeah.
Wolverine into their world. So, and the way he digs the grave and he just finds the skeleton. I think people were expecting some twist there, but all he gets is the remains of Wolverine, right?
Well, and that's the whole thing is that you get continuity. So, this picks up
Yes.
where Logan left off. You get
Yeah.
you get multiverse. So you have multiverse
Yeah.
mingling here. And then you realize that even though that Logan died here, that's not the end of Wolverine. There's so
Exactly.
many variations, so many flavors. It's like an
Right.
ice cream factory. There's different flavors, and which is
Absolutely.
also nice because that also uh that also gets people to hone in on what's their favorite. What do they like about Wolverine?
Yes.
Some people like
Mhm.
that he has invulnerability. Some people like that he's got the claws. Some people like that he's a loner. I mean, there's different aspects of Wolverine, and what
Exactly.
this also shows us going through the multiverse here is that not every Wolverine is the absolute same, cardboard cutout. Hey,
Yeah.
it's Wolverine here. It's the same thing over here. We found that out when we were watching Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No Way Home, or the third one there, and it was
Third one.
because
Yeah.
like, yeah, when they just took that one scene and they said, oh, here's your web cartridge fluid. Oh, here's this. He's like, no, I just make it, and then they're all like, whoa, you just make your own. It's like, yeah, doesn't everybody? It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's that type of stuff there, that because some people were actually upset that they're like, why is Spider-Man making his own fluid, web fluid here, and then they got into a whole anatomy type thing. I love that they jokingly addressed that there, with, oh, does it come out of your butt? And it's like, no, 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 no. But so some people that are more scientific are like, hey, I like the web fluid thing. Some people that just enjoy it for the fantasy part of it, or just like, yeah, he can just make his own and everything. That's so cool. Yeah. So getting back to this here, having different vi- uh, visions of what Wolverine, of what my ideal Wolverine is. it this movie brought that in. I mean, Wolverine is very, very short in one
Yes.
comic. I mean, he's always very, and so the fact that there was a scene where the guy got off the stool and he was like 5 foot tall, you're just like, oh my gosh, you know.
Really?
Now, for my wife, and I've always been a Henry Cavill fan, and even before he was Superman, but to see the Cavalrine, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, if Deadpool picks up Henry Cavill as Wolverine or something like that, that would be amazing because he that is, this one is great here. This is one that I grew up with, is Hugh Jackman's Wolverine here. But comic book wise, the Cavalry is really what I've always envisioned Wolverine to be. So the
Oh,
fact that they
okay.
placed him in there like that, He had the
Wow.
motorcycle. He's he doesn't take crap from no one. That was kind of along my lines there. And to see that, it was just like, I mean, when we watched it later, we watched it like 3 or 4 times already. But when we watched it
Yeah.
later, you know, my wife and I paused it because she loves Henry Cavill from being Henry
Okay.
Cavill. I love
Right,
the
right,
Henry
right.
Cavill character because for me he play his method of playing these characters here, whether it be Superman, whether it be The Witcher, whether it be the Cavalry, um, you know, he's it's just there. It's right. It's raw.
Exactly.
It's real talent, and so to see him in this here and knowing that that could be a possibility, you know,
Yes.
oh my gosh, I'm just like yes, yes, yes. But
Wow.
I will always forever want Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds envisions who my Deadpool is. I've watched, I've had Deadpool
Okay.
comics. I have different things. Yeah, he did it so well, and the fact that he made amends for the other version. He played a great Deadpool in that one movie there. But when they turned him into Deadpool, it was awful. And I was so disappointed. And the fact that Ryan Reynolds made amends for that, by
Oh,
taking him
yes.
out, it was just like, here's you got it. You got it. We're back in it,
Right,
yes,
right.
and everything else. Um, one of the things that, and I don't know if you're familiar with, is that many of the people that make these characters, these comic book
Mhm.
creators here, have worked in Marvel, have worked in DC, have worked in other comic books,
Oh,
and so you'll
okay.
see a lot of similarities. So while you have Deadpool here, there is a counterpart, and that could be a
Acha.
whole thing if you ever want to talk about is who are the DC counterparts of these Marvel characters and so forth. And
Wow.
so,
Okay.
and you'll be really surprised. Be like how similar these things are, and then it becomes a rush to market who embraces what and everything else. So, but
So
Ryan
who is
Reynolds,
the counterpart for Deadpool? I'm sorry to
um,
interrupt you.
Deathstroke. Deathstroke
Ah,
is
okay.
so Deathstroke has a whole thing. He's a mercenary,
Okay. Okay.
and he's very, very, but he doesn't have all the things that Deadpool does. But
Okay.
you'll see a lot of shared aspects, but it's different just enough. If you pull up a picture of Deathstroke, you're gonna be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, that's like Deadpool with just some different colors and stuff like that.
Oh,
But
nice.
he's got the
Okay.
swords, he's got the guns, everything like this. And so that's what one of the things is. So you take something um, that they both share here, and then there's Marvel nuances, and then there's DC nuances here, and then they craft
Wow.
those characters and those stories from that. But
Nice.
so, but anyway, yeah. So I mean, they always relate Batman back to Iron Man. Very different, but the premise is,
Yeah.
both people have gadgets, both people have rich, dark stories,
Right,
background,
right.
parents and stuff like that. So, but there are different counterparts there. But anyway, getting back to the movie itself
Yeah.
here, um, what I loved about this was that they were able to play into so many lost variations and lost characters. Um, and it just caused me to be a kid again. I mean, the fact that
Right.
they had the original Pyro in there and the original the guy who played Sabretooth from the X-Men movies here. They brought in Chris Evans, as Johnny Storm instead of
Did
Captain
you expect
America.
that?
I did not. I was like, oh my gosh, here it goes,
Okay.
here it goes. And then he goes,
Did
and
you
I'm like,
also think
oh.
like Deadpool thinks that he's going to now say a Captain America dialogue instead he, you know, changes it
Yeah,
completely?
yeah. He changed
Avengers assemble, he thinks, and
and then he goes, flame on, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Johnny Storm. Because
right,
you kind of say, okay, like, if you see Hugh Jackman here, you always think Wolverine, depending on how you grow. You don't think, all this time in the theater. You don't think of, The
right,
Greatest Showman or Les Miserables. You think of this, and so,
Wolverine, yeah,
uh, it, I mean, and so one of the things is, I love that they that these actors take these characters here and make them their own. People take their characters that they're known for, and then they can play off them and make them
yeah,
humorous in many many ways. There, um,
exactly.
one of the things is that many people don't know, and was, you had, is that you're tied to Cable, in number two here, and then uh, you also know that he plays Thanos, and so
Right.
being that Thanos, and Thanos was a big competition for Deadpool because they were both in love with Lady Death. The whole thing
Oh,
that you don't know
okay.
is that the whole thing was with getting the gauntlet was because you know he wanted to be powerful and he wanted to be part of and so there's a whole Lady Death uh
Oh,
timeline and storyline there, and how they were rivals for their affection. So being able
oh,
to see a character that played Cable here, and I think there's probably some little nuances in there that ties the Cable character back to Thanos because of the actor here. Those little things there, I probably have to
right.
watch it a couple more times. There's so many things. Um, but they've taken those liberties there. I think that they did really, really well. They created some new things in the movie here that cause us to explore different things, and that's what
Yeah.
it is. Is that what I liked about the movies and the comics is that peek inside the what ifs. Marvel's even got their
Yes.
show What If,
See,
you
yeah.
know, and that gives us a peek behind the curtain that says, hey, what happens if we went left instead of right? What happens if we
Right.
said yes instead of no? You know, these things cause ripple effects.
Absolutely.
Multiverse mechanics and theology, theoretical is that every decision we are posed with, we make a decision here, and then a timeline is created to for the opposite decision. So
Okay.
is in essence we are split. Our consciousness
Exactly.
only knows what we've decided, yes, but there is another road that's a little bit darker that says, well, this is what happens. I said no on this here, but now there's a yes road here. How does that
Mhm.
unravel? How does that, and
Exactly.
those types of things, and that's what the whole timeline there happens. Now you have Deadpool who breaks the fourth wall. We all talk about the fourth
Exactly.
wall, talking to the audience here. I love that he both breaks the fourth wall, and then he gets other characters like, "Who are you talking to?" He's like, "Yeah."
Right.
It's
Exactly.
along those lines there. So it keeps them in character while at the same time breaking that fourth wall and addressing us on a new level. Um, but there's lots of little nuances. I mean, this script is so jam-packed with so many
Mhm.
different things that you can just tell that there was a lot of love and care put into this. It
Right.
wasn't just, hey, we're going to entertain everybody here, and we'll drop some things here. There was some real
Right.
planning involved. There's some real,
Exactly.
uh, you know, it's, the fact that they addressed why people weren't in the movie here. That bartender person, the actor who played him in the first two, had a run in, different things. They address those things when they can button up those things here, life, because life hits you in the real world. Life hits you. You're not
Exactly.
always going to be able to get the same person, or you're not going to be able to do this, or you're not, you have a falling out with this person here. And the fact is that they were able to tie up those ends there that says, okay,
Exactly.
yeah, you didn't get them on contract, or you didn't want them anymore here, but but I'm gonna pay attention to the movie here and not leave you hanging on that little detail there,
Exactly.
and so
Exactly.
forth. And so many people keep things wide open because they don't want to make decisions on, because of the influence. Every decision you make is that split decision and creates different things here. Now, that's not to say that that character can't return. He would just be in another universe. We can always bring him back,
Exactly.
and we can always do things like that. So it's one of those things that you really enjoy, um, how they address these little things here. So clearly they had a script, they rewrote it, they revised it. They said, well, what if, what if? I mean, there's a lot of care into this here, and so
Yes.
and this makes
Yeah.
it. Uh, I've always been one of those that I'm very hesitant about sequels. Everybody puts their best foot forward on the first movie, because they want to
Mhm.
get everybody hooked on it and everything else. And then what happens is that people make a lot of money, and then they kind of ride the wave type of thing. So a
Exactly.
lot of times the sequels are not always better. Or
Right.
Deadpool, because Ryan Reynolds is passionate about making this here, and he knew that he had to, he this is what he wanted. He tried for years and years and years, and so until finally he didn't leak it, but he leaked it, you know. And so and just got everybody involved, and so they knew that they had to make it. Um, and so uh, with the second one, it's like, okay, you did this here. What are you going to do next here? And
Mm.
so he took his time. He really thought about, and he's got a lot of great ideas here, and was able to bring those in. So when the second one came in with Cable, it was just like, you know, holy moly, this is great. And then he talked about exports, which was great, and so he was able to bring in other things along those lines here. The fact that in this one here, that he knew his timeline ended, was ending,
Yes.
was something of the nature of, oh my goodness, here. Um, I don't want because people are like, I don't want this Deadpool, even this version of Deadpool to
Right.
end. This guy's great, you know.
Right.
And so they were able to take something that was been talked about
Right.
in other things like Loki and different things, and be able to say, okay, if this we're like, oh no, this is coming to an end. They're wrapping it up. Oh, this is going to be a trilogy. It's a great trilogy, you know, and they're just going to wrap it all up. And it's like, but then they did a whole 180 spin here, and they said maybe not. We're going to kind of leave it open, but maybe not. But
Right.
it also brought in other things. They brought in different facets. Once again, talking about the Thor thing. Once again, bringing in different Deadpools. What happens to everybody in the Void? What happens
Yes.
to other timelines? Are there other Deadpools out there? We answered that question.
Exactly.
And uh, what are other Wolverines like? We've answered
Mm.
that thing. So this has opened us up because with the natural progression of Marvel here, they want to bring X-Men into from the Fox side over to the Marvel side, which was
Yes.
demonstrated beautifully in the Void, where you saw the 20th Century Fox logo in the Void there,
Yes.
meaning that we've gone ahead and killed it. We're bringing it all together. So there's a lot of subtext there, and a lot of things, visualizations that was, here's the reality here. We're all bringing this together. We're going to be one big happy family. There's
Exactly.
talk about there's talk about the one true timeline, but then they're like, nope, we're not going to do the one true timeline because we love all the flavors, all the variations
Exactly.
of all these characters here.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
you know, I think that this movie here, this is what I also wanted to go into, was it gave people that were trapped in characters like Fantastic Four, the Human Torch here. We know that
Yeah.
there's other variations. Okay, there have been
Exactly.
other Fantastic Four movies here. We all love Chris Evans as as this here. He knew that he wasn't going to be doing this here. How can we kill him off and kill him off right? You know,
Yes.
and the one way we did it was the way that Chris Evans, I assume, wanted to go, and just shooting his mouth off. He was always Johnny Storm, a do-gooder, and everything like this. And to be able to come back and just unleash all that stuff, and then just to die in such a larger
Horrible
than
manner.
life,
Yeah.
a larger than life. You're just like, I mean, it just when I saw that scene, I was like,
Oh my God. Yeah.
oh crap. Like that. Like,
Wow.
but it was amazing. It was amazing.
Right.
This has also opened us up to Gambit. That Gambit's going to be made now. I mean, it's got a
Mm.
huge following here. He's been wanting to do this and came so close to doing this Gambit, character here.
I
Um,
love his
for
accent,
so
His
yeah,
accent is so
yeah.
funny,
You're
right?
like, it was so thick. That Creole accent was so thick, because I thought in the Wolverine one, where Deadpool, where Ryan Reynolds played Deadpool, um before he got turned into,
Wade
was it
Wilson, right?
Logan or what was, I think it was the Wolverine. It was called the Wolverine.
Yeah, it
Um,
was one of
so it
the
had
Wolverine
Ryan
movies.
Reynolds
Yeah.
in there, but there was also a Gambit in there. And I thought that they cast the
Yes.
Gambit very, very well, but they just
Mm,
didn't do enough with them here. But to see,
exactly.
this version of Gambit, which once again lends itself to multiverse, and to know that he did such a wonderful job at it, it was a little, like because I never envisioned him to be
But he
Gambit,
was supposed to
but he
play Gambit, right, for quite
he
some
was
time.
he was supposed to play it, and then what happened was is that they shelved it. And so, I've seen stuff like this here, is that they will make something and then they will shelve it, and they're
Mhm.
just like, now we're just not going to do it here. One of the things is that not only am I passionate about comic books and comic book movies here, I'm also passionate about games. So one of my favorite games of all time was called City of Heroes.
Okay.
It's still out there. So what happened was is that NC Soft put out this
Mhm.
game called the City of Heroes. You essentially make your own hero, and they have different
Oh,
textures and everything, and then you get to choose the powers, and then depending on what you do, what power line you choose, you get at the higher levels you go, you get more powers and everything else. Great game, beautiful. It was massive multi online. You could build, you built up your character. You went on missions. You could team up with other characters. You end up building bases, like superhero layers and stuff
mhm.
like that. Then they came out with a city of villains. You could build your own villains.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
there's so it opened your mind up to different things, and then you could write backstories. I had
Wow.
lots of backstories of different villains and characters.
That's
One of my
awesome.
main ones is it's also my game name here that I use is Body Shield. I've always been the Body
Wow.
Shield, and
Okay.
so ever since the '90s, I've been the Body Shield.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
and so, but I've also had an alter ego.
Ah.
My villain name has always been Krakathor. Yeah,
What
and
is it?
Krakathor was Krakathor,
Oh,
Krakathor. So
okay.
I've had a good guy and I've had a bad guy. Or he wasn't necessarily a bad guy as much as an anti-hero. He just did his own thing. And
Yeah.
so be able to pursue these things and seeing how brought me closer to superheroes and so
Hmm.
forth. And so anyway, NC Soft had another game called Guild Wars. So they had to
Okay.
make a decision between City Heroes and Guild Wars. They decided to go to Guild Wars. And so what they did was they
Okay.
shut down City Heroes. It was
Hmm.
horrible because I mean I've been playing this for 10 years. I
Wow.
played this game for 10 years,
Mm.
and then they shelved it, and then it shut down all servers, everything. Everybody, we were on until the very last moment where we lost connection. Everybody was got, I mean, if you can imagine, there are videos out there, you see thousands of people online, and then all of a sudden they cut off the servers, and it's like, everybody's like, bye, bye, and everything. Well, anyway, somebody got a hold of the program and everything, started secret servers of this here, and finally NC Soft says, okay, if you guys want to run it here, don't you can't make any money off it because it's our idea. We'll let you run it, and it's been totally running ever since.
Oh,
It's
really?
that kind of yeah. So to bring this back to the movie here, it's that kind of uh following that
Mm.
has helped Deadpool become so famous and doing what it is here. And I think it's also good, and it's also being able to bring uh, Channing Tatum's uh, uh, Gambit in,
Yes.
to get it the vision to see it and to get but the following that it needs to. And now they're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to make it now. And so
Yes.
you get these dreams here, and with the right kind of mechanisms here, we can bring them to fruition, you know, through through the people that enjoy it the most. And so
Exactly.
it's that type of thing here because I think corporations and movie houses and different things think about money. Yes, everybody wants to make money here, but the
Yeah.
reason why we get into movies here and we get into writing is because we're passionate about this. We have stories we want to share, things that we visions that we want to bring to life here. And this is the medium that allows us to do it. I mean,
Exactly.
you're a filmmaker here. You have
Yeah.
ideas, you want to bring them to life here, and so, but it doesn't seem tangible unless you have some sort of exposure. This is and so
Yeah.
with so we promote different things. We promote things outside the normal venues here in order to
Mm.
create a following here, and then that
Right.
following helps turn turns the big wheel, that is corporations here into the direction that we want them to go in order to make the
Exactly.
things that we want to see, and then everybody ends up winning, and so forth.
Exactly.
So, and
Yeah.
I love, but
Yeah, sorry. I mean, on the same point, what I've seen is that Marvel listens to the fans, and there are so many things in this movie. For example, even Henry Cavill's version of Wolverine. I think a lot of fans wanted that, and similarly, people wanted to see Gambit as Channing Tatum as Gambit. People wanted Blade back. So, these things
I
is
love
talked
Blade.
about.
I have the Wesley Snipes McFarlane action figures packed away right now
Oh,
of Blade.
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I love Blade. Yeah, it's like that. We're all passionate about these characters. We love these people that would be. I mean, one of the things is that these movies get made here. We fall in love with the characters and the people that play
Exactly.
these characters here, and then
Right.
when they just go because of real life, we're disheartened. We're upset. We yearn for the return, and this is what
Exactly.
Deadpool also brought back to us here. It brought
Exactly.
back those things. The fact is that I felt like a child here. I saw Blade. I saw, I mean, the fact is that Elektra was in it there, and we all know the
Yes.
history between her and Ben Affleck. It's like, oh,
Right.
you couldn't save everybody. He's like, I'm not worried. And so we poke fun at those things there, and
Yeah.
it's lighthearted, it's fun, but it just brings us into the story, and like we're all part of the story.
Right.
My
Right.
childhood, you know, it, I got to relive my childhood in this movie here, because
Exactly.
of so many
Right.
things. I mean, one of my favorite movies is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Okay, in the
Okay.
background is the station wagon or whatever it is, the car, not the station wagon, but the car that they use, the green car. You can see it in the
Okay.
background. They went into the void there. That
Yes.
small
Yes.
little piece there excited me.
Hmm.
I've seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles 50 times. I watch it every
Wow.
Thanksgiving. It's
Wow.
a staple in my house. And now, come this Thanksgiving here, they're going to re-release Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with a whole
Oh,
75 minutes of extra footage that they didn't have in
okay.
there before. And so
Wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, um, you know, but it might be that they put these little Easter eggs in that gets us to start thinking about things again, and that may have been why is it taking so long for them to re-release this movie here, but
Yes.
maybe Deadpool had something to do with it, just a little bit there, a little bit there,
Exactly.
Gambit's storyline here. Let's
Hmm.
reignite that. I mean, this is what this movie brings. It's not just the enjoyment for what we see here, but it also brings into how we feel. And then from how we feel, brings into fruition about the direction that movies can go. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
uh, it's this movie did so many things on so many levels for me. And I know that it may not be, I've had some people say, "Oh, I didn't like it," or anything like this, and that's fine. Everybody gets to like their own thing. That's what makes us unique, you know.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I
But the
think that
fact
this
that
appeal.
you are talking the way you're talking, like the child inside you is come back, right? So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
that's the effect of the movie, right? I mean, I see that excitement in you, I see that energy in you when you're talking about these characters, the people you have been in love with for so many
mhm.
years, right? So I think it's a different thing for real comic book fans, right? A regular moviegoer also might have liked it, but maybe not as much as you because you have so
Yeah.
many connections with all these characters while you were growing up, right?
Yeah. But what's really nice is that they can introduce new things. So you get to be that you get all the stuff from your childhood. And
Hmm.
so but then they introduce new things and it's like but they've already so the inner child of yourself is connected with these characters
Yes,
here and they're like we're going to introduce new things and I'm not only connecting with you as an adult, I'm connecting with your child too.
yes,
And we're going to make new things here. I mean, I'm super excited. for all the different things here. I mean, we could, there's enough comic books out there, that we can make things for the next 50, 60 years. They're
Wow,
constantly coming up
wow.
with new things. Oh, yeah. I mean, 100 years, there's lots of new stuff. And with CGI and everything, we can do lots of different things here. But it's not just about the characters. It's not just about the stories. It's also about the
Mhm.
writing within the stories here.
Yeah, right.
I've, like, um, when the first Banya Hulk came out in
Hmm.
2003, you know, I was super excited. I enjoyed it. They took some liberties there that that kind of broke some of the connections with me as a child, watching the old
Oh,
TV series
okay.
and the comic books there. But I still enjoyed it for what it was. And that's
Yeah.
all things like I don't know if you remember that there's a whole thing about Star Trek the original series here, and
Um,
then we had the Star Trek movies, and then they reignited the Star Trek original series with a whole new cast, and people were upset. They're like, "This is not my thing," but if you take the core principles and the core character things, and then people take the liberties with them, they can enhance them to be new things and better things. And so this
right.
is and so seeing these things, and so I don't say I'm not like this here. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, tell me a story here. Give me your version of it here, and I'll base it off of if I like your version, not just about the historical, significance of certain things here. And
Right.
so I think that I think Marvel's done an excellent job of that, being able to say, "Hey, here's this here, but we're going to take this and we want to do this, and then we want to do this, and kind of bring it out." And to say that, hey, if you don't like it, that's okay. It's a multiverse here. We have different
Exactly.
flavors.
Right.
We're preserving what you want and what you had,
Yes.
and we're not going to ruin your childhood, because we
Yes.
went in a little bit different direction here. And so, once again, that's what Deadpool brings here is that you see all the different flavors of Wolverine and all the different
Yes.
flavors of different things. They're coming out with a new blade. They're coming out, with different, there's with different movies here, and they will
Doctor
take
Doom.
and Doctor Doom here.
Yes.
I'm really interested here. I'm not really watching anything, but I'm like, why is Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark, who I have grown up with here, now playing
Exactly.
Doctor Doom? Why is this person this person? And it's like, and
Exactly.
so everybody's like upset, or somebody's like, oh my God, and so I'm saving all my judgment and what I think for the movie itself here because I want to know how it
Exactly.
plays.
Yeah.
Is this just, hey, Robert Downey Jr. is going to play this character, or is this some version in the multiverse that says Tony Stark has become Victor Von Doom
Hmm.
or Doctor Doom? Maybe it's not even Victor Von Doom. Maybe it's just Doctor Doom as Tony
Yes.
Stark or something like that.
Right.
So I'm really
Right.
interested. I'm not going to watch any of the previews. Once again, I'm saving
Yeah.
myself for the movie here, and
Yeah.
because I want to be amazed. I don't want to come in with any preconceptions or
Hmm.
biases about things
Exactly.
that may ruin the movie, and that's what a
Right.
lot of people do. And going back to the previews here, they people show things because they want to get people hooked, but
Exactly.
you're you're hooking them with the right things. You got to make them think a little bit.
Right.
Hey, what does that mean? What's going on? That's why I like teaser trailers. Teaser trailers are just like I'm gonna, it's like the samples. You go to a store here, and they're like, "Hey, you want
Yeah.
to try a sample here?" And you're like, "Ooh, this is nice. I like this here." But I'm not gonna give you the whole thing. I'm just enough to pique your curiosity, and that's what I like. You know,
Right. Right.
and then you go into the movie and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I have high
Would you
hopes for
have,
Marvel. Yeah.
sorry, would you have preferred if you didn't know that Wolverine is in this movie and they had gone with a different title, Deadpool and a friend or something? Would you have preferred that,
I
or you think?
I I would have preferred to not know anything. For me,
Mm,
some people
yes.
don't like surprises here, but if somebody just said Deadpool 3 is coming out and that's all I knew,
Yes.
it would have been I think my joy would have gone even higher because
Yes.
there was an
Just,
expectation. I knew that Wolverine was going to be in this. You
yeah.
know, I knew it.
And just
It's
imagine, you're in the theater and suddenly you have the Wolverine walking in inside the movie. You will be like, oh my God, this is,
I'd be
you
like,
know?
did they just do? Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I didn't know that Blade was going to be it, and Gambit,
Yes.
and all
Yes,
these
yes.
other things
So the
because I didn't watch any of the
surprises were
previous.
there. Yeah,
So the
yeah,
surprises were wonderful. They were just,
exactly.
I mean, it took me from here to like here, on the
Yes,
enjoyment scale because it was such a pleasant surprise, you know, of like,
exactly.
oh my God. I mean, I'm like, I could not stay in my seat. I'm doing this, like I'm moving around because I'm just so excited. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. Is that I did I forgot how old I am. I was, 10 years old, enjoying everything. Yeah, obviously on the more adult parts, I was 18 and 19 and 20. But even at that, it hit every single point of my being here. I was able to install, understand the adult parts. I was able to install, to relive, what made me the kid parts,
Right,
it just, it hits on so many different levels. It's like an onion. There were so many
right,
different layers to this movie here. And so,
exactly,
I mean, I can't get over it. And this is why I will watch this forever. It will never get boring. It'll never get tired because it appeals to so many different levels, and that's
exactly.
and that's
Yeah.
the making of a good movie. That's why one of the things that, like I told you, I watched Planes and Automobiles 50 times. No
Oh,
doubt. No,
oh,
I literally
oh,
50 times. I can quote you all of it.
oh.
I talk. I speak every single part. You know, in the movie here, I can do every single part
Really?
and take you
Oh,
take you through.
we
Yeah.
should do a podcast on that then next time.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I can go, but because it hits on so many different layers, you get your comedy, you get your tragedy, you get your
Mm,
drama, you get your conflict, you
mm,
get all these different things here that makes a movie not just a movie, but a complex story. And so,
mm.
and I love, we call it the M. Night Shyamalan, a
Yeah,
twist.
yeah.
He's coined that. It's a twist.
Right, right.
One of those things is like the I didn't expect that. Once again, Johnny Storm. Didn't expect that. The
Yes.
fact that they killed off Johnny Storm, didn't expect it. But it
Mm.
was just like, what? you know,
Right.
it's that type of thing. That you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like so engaged. I didn't even want to blink. I was fear I was
Oh,
gonna miss something. Yeah. So,
awesome.
but it was
That's
just ah so good.
I'm glad that it got you so excited, and for me, yes, as I told you, my experience with this movie was, uh, I was super excited with all the cameos that I saw,
Mhm,
but my connection to the movie is not as deep as yours, but I still enjoyed it. I still
mhm,
enjoyed almost all the cameos, and I tried to do a little bit of research before watching the movie so that the cameo that I'm going to see, the characters that I'm going to see, I know them before
mhm,
I've watched the movie. Because since I've not read so many comic books, some of those characters I might have not seen in previous
mhm,
movies. Like I wasn't familiar with Blade until I watched Deadpool and Wolverine because I'd never seen Blade movies. So for
mhm.
me, Blade as a character was a new character. But when I watched it the next time and I studied a little bit about him, it was wow. I could understand what people must be going through when they must have seen these characters come on the screen. Right.
Did
Well,
you know?
I had
Did you know that?
yeah.
Did you know that Ryan Reynolds was in Blade 3?
No, but then I read it, and apparently they had some problem also. Is it the characters or is it in real life they had some problems with each other? And
I don't
he,
know about the real life, but the characters had issues with each other,
okay,
in there. But the fact is that for people that didn't see Blade here, now you're peaked. I want to go see those
yes,
movies now. And so
exactly,
that now,
exactly.
and now that has brought you into that timeline, which now has, and one of the things that I've always been a fan of uh, was the character is not a Marvel character, but Spawn. I don't know if you ever heard of Spawn. It's
No,
a
no,
very dark comic here about a
okay,
guy who does very very bad things, goes to hell, and now
okay,
he has been reincarnated here and has to redeem himself and do different
oh,
things. But the devil wants him to be a minion
okay,
for him on Earth, and he doesn't want to do that. He wants to try and be better. So
okay,
there's a whole thing. I've always been so anyway. They did a movie Spawn there,
Okay.
and I loved it. It was amazing. It was
Yeah.
crazy. It was awesome here. Now, and then they make a number two, and um, I hated it. It was like it's like they put their best foot forward, and then they just kind of slap something together. It was just like, you know. But anyway, uh, but the story was okay, but it didn't align with me. And I'm saying other people liked it and everything else. But
Okay.
so this goes back to that sequels and stuff like this. And I think
Yeah.
that the Deadpool series
Hmm.
acknowledges that we're going to work hard every single movie here to bring you the
Wow.
best here. We're not going to just rest
Exactly.
on our laurels and rest on the on the different things here. We're actually going to do it. So number two was great. Number three
Yeah.
was even better. I mean, they're just
Yes.
every single time. But they're not forgetting, and they didn't forget about the people in the previous. That was one of the
Right.
things I like, is that it really built. And so if you could take, kind of like what Back to the Future does, and,
Yeah.
and they build off of it and make it more robust, and not
Yeah.
just say, here's one, here's one, here's one, compartmentalize it, and be
Hmm.
able to say, oh yeah, this is part of a bigger world here. We're all in this
Right.
together, and everything else. It's just really amazing.
Exactly. Okay, now my question to you would be, you had so many Wolverines in the movie. Who is your favorite Wolverine and why?
So I identify most with the cavalry because the
Yes.
comic books that I read, he had a motorcycle. He was a loner for the most part. Yes, he had interactions with uh, X-Men. I enjoyed that. I'm a big fan of the old X-Men cartoon show.
Mhm.
I was also the amber or the brown and yellow Wolverine was very very good. I enjoyed that,
Okay.
but and that's part of some of that. But the Cavalry was always the guy. He was the guy in the motorcycle. He was tough. He was a loner. He had the cigar. He just and he was the guy who just didn't give a crap about anything. You know,
Okay.
um, he does what he does. He's more of an anti-hero. He more aligned with Deadpool here is
Okay.
that he does what's right, but he does what's for him, and he
Mm.
doesn't give it. He doesn't give a crap. So if the cavalry were to be in an alley, and you're walking past here and everything like this, he'd give you crap, if you try to
Okay.
do anything to him. But the same token is that if somebody tried to hurt you or something like that, he'd be like, I don't like you. I'm gonna beat your butt because you don't do that to people, So he's like,
Yeah.
that anti-hero. And
Okay.
so that's what I really identify.
So I have a question regarding this because I don't understand it completely. So
Mhm.
when they come with this comic book, so they have different Wolverines in different comic book. Are they like talking about a multiverse? And when they come with these different versions of Wolverine in their comic book?
So they talk about a multiverse without talking about a multiverse. What
Okay.
they need to so depending on the
Hmm.
writers will write a story, and so these
Okay.
stories will be able to contribute and contribute, contribute until what happened was is that they just have no more ideas. And so what they
Okay.
do is that they have to shelf these ideas here because they've taken this character here and built this whole world around it here,
Hmm.
and it could be because what they haven't been exposed to, what they have, they just can't. They get kind of a writer's block, I assume would be
Yeah.
something. And so there's this like, so I love the character here, but now that they give you that what if, well, what if?
Oh.
Okay. And so that spawns a different flavor of comics, different origin story, different things. In Wolverine here, not all Wolverines, have regenerative abilities. You know,
Oh.
not
Okay.
all Wolverines, some Wolverines have a definite birth date. Others they don't know how old he is. Some people think he's been
Okay.
around for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, so because some of the things like in Deadpool here, they talked about Nice Pool. Oh, Nice Pool doesn't have
Yes.
regenerative abilities? What? Stuff like that. So there's lots of different origin stories, and so they want to
Uh,
take a character here, and they say, okay, I don't want to limit it to just this one thing, but I
yeah.
start asking myself, well, what if Wolverine was like this, or what if
Yeah.
Wolverine was like this? And so that spawns the different flavors here,
Okay.
and then from that it takes it's like a single cell. You have a single
Got it.
cell, and then the cell divides, and then the cell divides, and so
Yeah.
we start building these traits,
Wow.
and then we build the traits end up building uh, what we contribute to the person or the character as a whole. And then those people, well, now we have to build experiences here. Okay.
Right.
Because these traits help influence how we feel, how the character feels about certain things. And then those feelings turns into decisions here. And so we
Right.
start at a certain point in the timeline here and we start moving forward here. But then we start asking ourselves, what's going on here? What made him be like that? And that
Right.
starts spawning the origin story here. Now we start going backwards and then and
Right.
moving forward here. So, I mean, one of the greatest origin stories here um, was Magneto's. Magneto's got a
Oh,
whole origin story that he lived through the Holocaust. That he was separated from his parents. He was
yeah. Yeah.
branded here because he's Jewish.
Right.
And
Right.
everything else. And so I mean, it's a very dark origin story here, but it
Exactly.
crafted him into being the person he is, and all the different nuances that led up to this. This is why he distrusts, Homo sapiens,
Yeah.
and so forth. So there's a
Right.
real reason. It's not just because, oh, I'm crazy and I want to hurt people. He's
Right.
been hurt a lot, you know,
Right. Right.
um, and so forth. There is a new series called X-Men '97. It's a cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and so they continue from where the old X-Men cartoon series left off here. So that's
Oh,
why they call it
okay.
X-Men '97 because that's where it was. And so, but
Right.
then they start diving deeper into things here, you know,
Okay.
uh, and so they bring different things and different things. But so getting back to the original of Wolverine here is that Wolverine's a great concept here, but it
Okay.
can fulfill so many different stories here if we just tweak them, by asking what if, you know,
Right. Right.
there's a whole Wolverine here where he never underwent the adamantium uh,
Oh.
metal bonding to him, and he's got bone claws.
Oh.
There's
Okay.
another thing where he did go through the adamantium thing, but Magneto has stripped all of his adamantium away and pulled it all out of his body. Now he's got to live his life, this way, without the adamantium. And how does he live it? He's got these bone claws here. I don't know, and sometimes in some areas here, he's got slits for his claws. You know,
Wow.
others he doesn't, and so every time he shoots his claws out, it hurts him you know
Oh,
it causes great pain, and then it heals up, and then it hurts them, and everything else. And so with regenerative abilities here, it doesn't harden the skin because the skin goes back to a period of before it inflicted damage,
mm,
and so
okay.
it's always hurting him you know
Right. Right.
and so what would happen is that he may end up putting like uh prosthesis holes in here so it doesn't hurt him anymore, and so he's able to do that. So
Okay.
there's different things, but there's all sorts of little things here. If I had Wolverine claws and it hurt me like excruciating, like somebody stabbing me every single time, I wouldn't want to do that unless I absolutely needed to you know
Exactly.
so
Right.
it's that
That's
it's that
awesome.
type of thing there. And
Yes.
then now you bundle in technology here. And so now that we bundle in technology, now we have the ability to now go forward and backwards in time. We saw Endgame here. That
Yeah.
played with the whole space time continuum here. And so then you see Steve Rogers at the end. He's all old here, but then there's things that now question, was that really even him? What, that could have been, one of the shape changers, or that could have been,
Oh,
you know, uh, yeah. I mean,
okay.
there's a whole, because we ask what if, and it's those
Yes.
questions that spawn these great ideas, which spawns off alternate timelines and multiverses and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, back
Right.
then they were
That's
called alternate timelines. Now it's called
okay.
multiverses. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. And since we have spoken a lot, and we would be coming back again for another podcast, maybe as a part two. But before
Mhm.
that, I just wanted to end this podcast with one what if question. What if
Yeah.
you were given an option to team up Deadpool and Wolverine with a DC character or DC characters in one movie? One movie, Deadpool Wolverine with one or two DC characters. Who would they be, and how would you like to see
Yeah.
them?
Well, it would have to be somebody who is on the same level.
Okay.
So, so I would probably say that we wouldn't do anything from outer space, because they're
Okay.
not really outer space characters.
Right.
Um, we could do things with a timeline. We can
Hmm.
do obviously a multiverse could reach over into the DC universe. We could do
Yes.
it that way here. I think that a Batman would be excellent.
Okay.
I think that um, you know, let's see here. Batman is the first thing that comes to mind because Batman has such weaponry and gear that he can
Okay.
do different things there. Um, if I had to go a little bit deeper,
Hmm.
um, I would probably say, hmm, God, so many. I like the Flash. I've always been a Flash fan. The
Oh,
Flash would have
nice.
been really, really good because he's got regenerative abilities here, so it
Right.
pairs with them a lot there.
Right.
Also, you could explore space-time continuum because of the Speed Force.
Right.
So I'd probably say either Batman or the Flash.
Oh,
Those would be
nice.
good. Those would be good complementary characters because
Right.
then they bring enough storyline with and then bring um, enough things that they can explore. They can
Wow.
say,
Yeah.
there's enough ideas. So they could do a timeline thing with the Flash. They can bring up some really good villains on both sides of the fence that they both have to address there.
Right.
They have their limitations, but not so much of a limitation that they can't overcome it because they've
Okay.
overcome many odds there.
Right.
They're all fragmented in their belief because they've all had parents killed, of some
Mhm.
sort. They all dealing with tragedy here. So yeah, those would
Right.
be my two that I would say that you could pair up with very, very well and
Wow.
come up with very good storylines.
Great. So with that, we will end our podcast with the hope that the universe is listening to us and we get such a movie, right?